Good afternoon, grade 12. This is Act 5, Scene 2 summary. And then I'm going to do a video on recapping the whole play. But I'm going to have to do that separately. So let's get into the summary. And it's very short. So, Scene 2, Hamlet explains that he's escaped the plot to kill him and sacrifice his friends to escape. So I've already talked about that in detail. Osric appears to bring a challenge for Hamlet from Laertes, and Hamlet accepts the challenge. Laertes and Hamlet duel using foils or swords. Poison's tipped sword. The king offers a drink poison to Hamlet, which the queen brings to Hamlet, and he declines. Then the queen then says, toast to Hamlet, and she takes a drink and dies. While this is all happening, Laertes wounds Hamlet with the poison sword. They get into a scuffle. They switch swords, and then Laertes is wounded. Laertes dies after repenting his sins. The king is stabbed with the same sword, and he dies because Laertes said it's all his fault. And Hamlet tells Horatio to pass his story on and recommends Fortinbras to be elected king of Denmark. Fortinbras enters to see the dead people on the floor, and an ambassador confirms Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are indeed dead. We already knew that. And Hamlet is carried out nobly in a death march. Okay. So, I'm guessing that's how much time have I used already? I don't know. Anyways, let's give it a go. All right, so recap. 1. King Hamlet, Hamlet's dad, has a battle with King Fortinbras, Fortinbras's dad. Okay, so Denmark versus Norway. Denmark wins. Then King Hamlet dies shortly after the war. We don't know why. As far as we're concerned, it's natural causes. So Act 1, Scene 1, we have Bernardo and Marcellus. They're on guard. They see the apparition, and they bring Horatio in to see the apparition, to see whether or not they're losing their mind, because it's been happening for the last couple nights. And so Horatio sees it, and he's a friend of Hamlet's. He sees the apparition looks like King Hamlet, so they agree they need to inform Hamlet about this as soon as possible. So Scene 2, we switch to a wedding. There's a wedding between Gertrude and Claudius, and Gertrude is Hamlet's mom. Claudius is Hamlet's uncle. And so the two of them got married 2 months after the fact. Hamlet was brought back from going to school in Wittenberg to attend his dad's funeral, and then, of course, now to witness this wedding. And after Claudius and Gertrude are trying to tell Hamlet to quit mourning, it's time to celebrate, Hamlet, when everybody leaves, just goes on a rant and charges his mom as being weak, that she couldn't even mourn longer than 2 months, and we talked about how long should a person mourn for loss of a loved one, and of course it varies for each individual. Then Horatio comes in and says, "Hey, we saw your dad," and Hamlet's like, "Well, I see my dad all the time." He said, "No, we actually saw your dad in armor and all that kind of stuff. You need to come see this." So Hamlet goes see it, and the ghost is true. It is his dad. Now, and they go off and have a father-son chat, and so Ghost Dad tells Hamlet that he was murdered by his brother, but he can't come out right at the beginning and say, "Hey, my brother killed me." He has to be cryptic. So he tells a little story, and Hamlet gets the right answer. Ding, 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 ding. And so then you get the second version, and it's a little more detailed. And so Ghost Dad asks Hamlet to seek vengeance so that his soul can rest, and so that he doesn't roam purgatory much longer. But to leave his mother to heaven to be judged on Judgment Day. So he agrees to do that, and right away Hamlet has to change his demeanor from a normal behavior to someone who's mad. So he can, in front of everybody, he can be mad, but he can also, behind the scenes, plot a scheme to go after Claudius and kill him. So then we have Laertes had a request to go to France. And to basically get away from his father. He provides some advice to Ophelia, but the advice that he's giving is very similar to what Polonius would be giving. And so Ophelia tells Laertes to quit treating her like father does. I want you to treat me like a person, a woman, an individual. And so Laertes was yapping too long, and he said, "Oh, I talked too long." And Polonius comes in, and he actually provides some fatherly advice, and it's actually pretty decent advice. And then so Laertes is off, and once Laertes leaves, Polonius says to Ophelia, "What did he say?" And Ophelia doesn't share what's been going on. So then Polonius says, "I don't want you to see Hamlet anymore. And if he does come and make contact with you, I need to be informed immediately." And because she is a woman, and she is the daughter, she has to abide by her father's ruling and guidance. And so right away she's lost Laertes off to France. She can't see her love, which is Hamlet. And so she is isolated, and so she has her done that downward spiral that leads to her tragic demise in Act 4. And so then Hamlet is playing all these games throughout the middle part of the play, and he's taking his sweet time because there's some hesitance, because he's not sure whether this ghost is true, so he needs a play to prove it. Of course, he has a few soliloquies where he rants and raves about the fact that other people have more guts than he does to follow through with their actions, and he can't even do this simple task. Now, it's not really a simple task, but it's still, it's pretty straightforward. Kill Claudius, dad's soul free, and then life can move on. So how to do it? So the play, it will be the proof. If Claudius reacts to the play and it's a reenactment of the murder of his father according to the way it was described, then it's true. The ghost is true, and I know what to do. And Claudius does react to it, and so it's true. And then Gertrude wants to see Hamlet for the way he's been treating his father, Claudius. But of course, Hamlet says, "He's not my father. Your father, or my father, was your first husband, and you've been disloyal to him. You didn't mourn long enough. You're not. You should have stayed true to being his wife, even after death." And so he's speaking daggers to her, and of course the queen thinks Hamlet's going to harm her. She starts screaming. Polonius is hiding behind a curtain, and Hamlet, thinking that it's Claudius, he kills him. And once he finds out that it's Polonius, well, Hamlet's soul is downed. Before this, there was a test to see whether Hamlet is truly mad, and that was the to be or not to be speech. And it was Ophelia giving some gifts back. Of course, she's following the orders of her father, and she's being used as a tool, which is a common theme throughout the play. And Hamlet says, "Get thee to a nunnery, get out of here." Now she takes it as a negative thing, but Hamlet's implying to get thee to a nunnery, it's a safe place for her, and to basically free yourself from all this stuff that's going to be happening. But she doesn't listen, and so she's lost Hamlet now officially. and in her mind. And so then we have Hamlet's going to be sent off to England, and Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are escorting Hamlet to England, and those guys, they could have left a long time ago, but they didn't. They were trying to improve their status in society by helping out the king, and they pay the high price of doing so, because Hamlet finds out that he's going to be killed upon arrival, and he switches the instructions, the letter, by rewriting it after being invaded by a bunch of pirates. And so Hamlet works his way back to Denmark, finds out that Ophelia had taken her life, or died, when depending on how you read that and your perception of it. Laertes finds out that Polonius has died, but also Ophelia has gone mad. And then eventually he finds out after that Ophelia has died. Claudius is going to use Laertes as a tool to kill Hamlet, and they come up with a plan that we're going to have a poisoned sword and a poisoned drink. So you will ask Hamlet to take part in a duel, and then this is where Hamlet will finally die, and once and for all Claudius will be rid of Hamlet. Hamlet tells Horatio what had transpired on the boat in a little more detail, and of course then we find out about the wager and the duel, which Hamlet agrees to. Hamlet thinks and believes he's going to win. Horatio says, "You're not going to," which foreshadows scene 2. And we have the actual duel. Hamlet apologizes in front of everybody, and of course everybody is very appreciative of that humility, or the submission of that humility. And Laertes accepts the apology as an apology, but doesn't really accept the wholeness of it. And so they duel, and Gertrude offers the drink. Hamlet doesn't want it. She takes the drink, toasts, she dies. And then Laertes, during the confusion, scratches Hamlet with the poisoned sword. There's a scuffle, there's a switch of swords. Laertes gets scratched with the same sword, and so he is poisoned, he's dying. He tells Hamlet what's been going on, asks for his forgiveness, and Hamlet says, "You have my forgiveness, and please forgive me for all the stuff I've done." And we find out that Claudius is the mastermind of all this chaos and confusion and unnecessary death. And so Claudius is killed, and then Hamlet, in his 8th soliloquy, says to Horatio, "Tell my story, and be sure that this never happens again." And so the rest is silence. Fortinbras comes in, sees all these bodies, and wants to know what's going on. Horatio tells him what's going on, and then Hamlet is carried out in a death march. Now, let's see if I manage to keep this within 15 minutes. All right. If you have any questions, please let me know. Take care, and congratulations, you're done, Hamlet.